Alright, we have vocabulary to go over. A point is the first one. It is an exact location. Okay. It's represented as a dot. And you name it with a capital letter. So like point A. Okay? A line. It's a straight path. That goes on forever. In opposite directions, alright? An example would look like this, and there's arrows at both ends to indicate that it goes on forever in both ways. And then sometimes they just put like, this is line L. So some ways we can name this is XY, or you can have a line with YX because it goes on forever in both ways. You can use either way. Or you can use the lowercase letter. And then you have a plane, not like a plane you fly in the sky. That is a flat surface. Flat surface, no thickness, that extends forever. A lot of times they will give you the picture of a plane and a parallelogram. Okay, and they will maybe have some different points in there like Q, R, and S. Okay, so that would be plane QRS. You use 3 points in any order. 3 points not on same line in any order. Sometimes order matters, sometimes it doesn't. And I think when we get further into the chapter, order will start mattering for some if we get to those things. So, they give you this figure, another parallelogram, and in it they have intersecting lines, and they have where they intersect is C, this right here is D, here is E, this is B, and then they just have a random point A here. Okay, and the first thing they want to identify the figures in the diagram. So they want first 3 points. You can identify any 3 points you want, make sure they're capitalized. So we're going to go with A, E, and D. Doesn't matter what 3 points as long as you have 3 of them. B, they want 2 lines. Now these ones have to be on a line. Okay? So, B and D are on the same line, they're on that. And C and E are also. Now you can write those as DB and EC as well, because they go on forever in both directions. Doesn't matter, there's no stopping point. And then C, they want one plane. And remember, one plane is just any 3 points that are not on the same line. So, because D, C, and B are all on the same line, you're not going to use all three of those points. You could use two of those points, but you would need to use a point from somewhere else as well. So we're going to take A, B, A, B, E. Okay? It doesn't really matter as long as you do not have all 3 points from the same line. So, remember we talked about order? It matters in this lesson. Arrays. Array is part of a line. It has a starting point and it doesn't have an ending point. Starting point no ending point. So it looks something like this. This is our starting point and it goes either to the right or the left or up or down or whatever. But you have G and you have H. The symbol you put over is that, okay? Not an arrow on both ends because it has a starting point. And then you write the starting point and another point on the line. This one only has 2 points, so you can only write H. But you always start with the starting point and end with a different point. A line segment oops, that's not how you spell. Is also a part of a line. Part of a line with 2 endpoints. So it looks something like this. L and M. And since it both has an endpoint, you can write it either as LM or ML. So the only time it matters what order you put it in is if there is a definite endpoint. So if there's an arrow on just one end. But if both ends look the same, you can write them in any order. So we have this little diagram here that looks something like this. We have T, oops, S, R, Q, and then we have, there we go. So we want, the first thing is 3 rays. Remember, 3 rays have a definitive starting point and then they go on forever. So RQ, if you look at RQ, we could say we're starting at R and we're going down to Q. So that would work. So we're starting at R and going to Q. Another one that would work is RT, because this line starts at R and it goes up in one direction to T and keeps going. But since we're starting at R, that's R. Here we go. And another one, we can pick a random letter again and go, okay, we're starting at S and we're going to go to the left. So we have S, Q. The next thing we need is, we're going to do a different color now. Let's do blue. 3 line segments. Remember, those are things that start and stop. The first obvious one is this line right here, because there's no arrows. It starts and it stops, and you can tell that from the picture. So we're going to use TS or ST, it doesn't matter. Another one we can do is we can say between these 2 points on the triangle, starts and stops. So we can do SR or RS. And then we could just do the third side of that triangle and do TR or RT. There are multiple answers to this. So if you have a different answer than one of your friends, doesn't mean they did it right, you did it wrong. You could have QR, you could have QS, you could have, yeah, there's just lots of different ones. So make sure you have a line segment. Congruent. We talked about congruent a while ago. I mentioned it. We didn't really go into detail. That is same size and shape. So you have two triangles that are the same. So they give you this figure here. And this is R, S, T, Q, and P. Okay, and then they do use these things called tick marks. If you see one tick mark, that means those sides are congruent. If you see sides that both have two tick marks, it means those sides are congruent. They're the same length, same size. Or if you see sides with three, it means those ones are congruent. So the congruent sign is this. So what we're going to go through is we're going to list all the congruent sides, which are line segments because they have a starting and ending point. So if you look at this line has one red tick mark, and this line has one red tick mark. So they are congruent to each other. So you could say RS is congruent to RQ. And if we keep looking, this side has two blue tick marks and this side has two blue tick marks. So we could say SQ is congruent to TP. And then this side has three yellow tick marks and this side has three yellow tick marks. So we could say that ST is congruent to QP. And that is how you do that lesson.